Hello there. Welcome to the Constitution Study, where we are returning the Constitution to its rightful owners, we the people. My name is Paul Engel, and I want to thank you for joining. I want you to thank you for becoming part of this study, part of this online event where we are reading and studying and understanding the Constitution so that we can hold our elected representatives in our government responsible, accountable for what they're doing. If you're a first-time listener, well, thank you. Please join right in. Head to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Find this episode and place a comment. Let me know what you think about what we're going to talk about today. If you have a question, please go to the questions page. Ask a question. We love questions. Questions are how we learn. If you don't know, ask. There is no such thing. Well, there's only two stupid questions in the world as far as I'm concerned. It's the one you don't ask, and it's the one you ask 3 times. So if you don't know, please ask. If somebody else has already asked that and answered that, well, I'll be more than happy to point you to that answer. But who knows, maybe you've thought of something that other people have been thinking about asking, but maybe they just weren't willing to. If you're a returning listener, thank you very much. Dedication is part of this process. The willingness to come back and continue studying, continue learning, continue to work towards understanding what our Constitution actually says. And I hope you'll take some time, head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the Constitution Study podcast. I was recently writing the chapter on the 4th Amendment, and as I was researching it and getting into it and studying it, I was learning stuff that I didn't realize. I always find that fun. So please, I'm going to encourage everybody to go to the website, constitutionstudy.com, download, ask others to download. This is interesting information. I believe it's important information. When you go to the website, please comment on the articles, comment on the podcast episodes. Let me know what you're thinking. Let everybody know, did I hit the mark? Did I miss the mark? Did I forget something? Is there something that you saw that nobody else have seen? These are very important. And again, ask those questions. They will help feed not only what I'm doing here, but help guide where the Constitution goes as a whole, the Constitution study. So today, I want to announce by the time this episode hits, my Patreon page should be up. So if you want to support the Constitution Study, feel free. You can go to patreon.com/Constitution Study. That's patreon.com/Constitution Study. You can also go to the website, constitutionstudy.com, and you'll see a support the Constitution Study at the bottom of the page. Click on that, and you can help support the work that I'm doing here. Help maintain, keep the Constitution Study going. Right now, it is what's commonly referred to as a side hustle. It's something I do in my spare time, which I have, frankly, not a lot of. So I work very hard to find time to write the podcast episodes, write the blog posts, record the podcast episodes, keep up with questions and comments. And the more support I get, the more time I'll be able to dedicate to this study, to the book, and everything around it. So I hope you'll go there. Today, I'm announcing on the podcast the release of my latest and actually first essay. It comes from the Constitution Study. It is called How the 16th and 17th Amendments Destroyed the Republic. Catchy, huh? A little bit exciting. What do you mean these 2 amendments destroyed the Republic? Well, first, let me tell you how you can get your free copy. If you go to the website, constitutionstudy.com, you'll see on the right-hand side, or there's a menu item on the top where you can join my mailing list. If you join my mailing list, you'll get a free copy of How the 16th and 17th Amendments Destroyed the Republic. You'll be able to download it, read it. It's a PDF file, and see what I'm talking about when I say that these 2 amendments destroyed the Republic. So let me give you a brief idea of what is in that essay. I don't want to go too far because, well, then you won't want to read it. So let's think for a minute. Do you even know what these 2 amendments are about? Now, don't feel bad, because the 16th and 17th Amendment contain issues that have been a significant part of my understanding of the Constitution for years. And for years, I had the hardest time remembering which amendments they were. I even had a hard time remembering which one was which. So don't feel bad if you have a hard time, but it goes to show me how little we understand our Constitution, that people don't even know these amendments are. They may recognize that that amendment is in there somewhere, but they don't know where they are, and they don't know what they say. What really frightens me is how few people seem to understand how these two amendments fundamentally changed the Republic. We think, oh, it's not a big deal. We'll talk about what's there. But fundamentally, at its core, they changed the Republic. They changed our structure. Not so much in the organized structure, but the relationship between the entities. So let's start. The 16th Amendment, everybody should recognize the 16th Amendment because every April 15th, we swear about it. Because the 16th Amendment is what gave us tax day. The 16th Amendment is where the states gave the federal government the ability to tax income and to not apportion it through the states. See, before this amendment, it was illegal for the federal government to collect taxes on your income. Think about that. Before 1913, it was illegal for the federal government to actually collect income tax. Now, there was a time, and I describe it in some more detail in the essay, where there was an income tax. They tried an income tax. It expired. They tried it again. The courts knocked it down. So they actually had to come up with the 16th Amendment. Now, the other important part was the 16th Amendment said that these direct taxes did not have to be apportioned to the states by population. This is also extremely important. See, before this, when the federal government wanted to tax the people, they didn't do so directly. They apportioned the tax by state based on the amount of population in that state, kind of like the way we pick the number of representatives, right? The number of House members is based on the population of the state relative to other states. Taxes were assigned to the people in the state based on the number of people in that state, as opposed to the states around it. So now, not only does, for the first time, does the federal government have the right to reach in and collect taxes on your income, but now they don't even have to go through the states anymore. It's not apportioned through the states. See, the states used to be a buffer between the people and the federal government, and that got turned over. That got lost because now the federal government comes directly to you. If the federal government wants to raise taxes, it doesn't go to the states. It goes directly to the people. And this fundamentally changed the relationship between the federal government and the citizens of the United States. See, before 1913, unless you were in the military, you had relatively little contact with the federal government. They weren't involved with, they didn't care what you made, they didn't care what work you did, they didn't care anything except how many people were in the house, how many people were in each household, because that's how they apportioned representatives and taxes. All they cared about were noses. After 1913, when they could tax your income, well, they need to know all sorts of things about you, don't they? They need to know how much you make. They need to know how much you spend on things that they approve as being tax exempt. They need to know all sorts of things about how you not only make money, but spend money, and we have to report that every year on April 15th. Oh, by the way, and if you're a small business or even a large business, you have to report every quarter what you're doing. And if you have employees, well, you have to report what you paid them and what you collected from them. And now we have this entire industry has grown up around paying income taxes and actually avoiding paying more income tax than you absolutely have to. And all of this exists because 36 states decided, you know what? Let's not play middleman. Let's let the federal government tax the people directly. Let's abdicate our responsibility as intermediary, as buffer, as a separation of power between the federal government and the citizens of the state. We'll just turn this all over to the federal government and let them have at it. So that was pretty bad, but a little later that year, they passed the 17th Amendment. Now, the 17th Amendment is the popular election of senators. So you may be asking yourself, well, what's such a bad idea about the electors being The senators being elected by the people of the state. I mean, that's who they represent, don't they? Well, not originally. See, originally we had two houses for a reason. You had the House of Representatives, which was chosen based on the population of a state. And you had the senators, which was chosen by the legislature of the state. You had the House of Representatives. The number of representatives for a state were apportioned based on population, whereas the Senate, it was 2 per state, period. You see, originally, the House of Representatives represented the people of the United States. That's why it's apportioned by population. It's one of the reasons why it has a 2-year term, not longer. And if you go into Article 1, Section 8, you'll see how many things are actually given to the House to do. The House originates all bills regarding the collection of taxes, regarding the spending of money. It is the House that impeaches public officials, whereas the Senate represented the states themselves. They were chosen by the legislature of the state. And if you look at it, it's why we have 2 senators per state. All the states are equal. It's also why the Senate is the one that are required to approve treaties and ambassadors and judges and other public officials. In fact, if you read, again, Article 1, Section 8, you'll see that, Article 2, Section 2, the president negotiates treaties with the advice and consent of the Senate. He or she appoints officers with the advice and consent of the Senate. See, the Senate, as the representatives of the states, which were the signing parties to the contract that is the Constitution, they had representation through the Senate. They were the ones that determined foreign policy in the form of treaties. They were the one that approved judges and ambassadors and other officers. That was the responsibility of the states. So there was a logical separation between the two. The 17th Amendment, which, if you read the essay, really comes around because some states were not doing their job very well, and rather than take responsibility, they wanted to blame everybody else. So let's fix this problem by breaking something else. But the states no longer have any say in federal legislation. If the federal government wants to pass a bill that says we're going to make the states do something, well, there's nobody in the Senate that represents the state to say no, because the Senate now represents the people of the state, not the state itself. So the signers of the contract that is the Constitution. And for the legal eagles out there, yes, it's a compact, which is the term for a contract amongst sovereign entities, which the states are. So it's a contract. The signers of the contract no longer have any say in the workings of the creation of that contract. But you see, nobody thought of that, or at least it wasn't sold that way. And I go into more detail in the essay how the 16th and 17th Amendment destroyed the Republic, and explain some of how this came about and why it came about, and help understand why we ended up in the mess that we did. So what you notice is these 2 amendments, both ratified, I believe, in 1913, fundamentally changed the relationship the federal government had. The 16th Amendment changed the relationship with the people. The federal government now had direct access to our income and had more reason to be more involved in our lives. And the states were no longer had a mechanism to protect us from the federal government. The 17th Amendment changed the relationship between the feds and the states. The states no longer have representation in the federal government. They no longer have a say in treaties or in ambassadors or judges or in trying impeachments. It is a fundamental change to the effective structure of our republic. Yes, we still have a bicameral legislature, but its function has drastically changed, and nobody talks about it. Very few people notice it. Very few people bring it into the thought process of what's going on, and nobody that I know of is teaching this. And that's why, hopefully, you come here to learn things like why the 16th and 17th Amendment are so bad. So I'm going to ask you again, go to theconstitutionstudy.com, join the mailing list. It's absolutely free. I'm not spamming you. I'm not sending out lots of stuff. The mailing list is so I can let you know when special events come up, like if there's a new feature coming out, or I hope to be participating in some events, maybe some online events, and I want to let everybody know what's going on. Part of that knowledge will come through the mailing list. So sign up for free. If you don't like what I'm emailing you, then unsubscribe. I completely understand. I get plenty of emails too. I'm not trying to become a nuisance, but that is how you'll get your free copy of how the 16th and 17th Amendment destroyed the Republic. Also consider supporting me through my Patreon page. Again, that's patreon.com/Constitution Study, or go to the Support the Constitution Study page on constitutionstudy.com. Hopefully you will continue, again, commenting, asking questions, downloading podcast episodes. I'm really starting to get going with this podcast process. Feeling a lot more comfortable. I'm seeing a little bit of traction from the downloads. I hope to see it keep going. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion about the 16th and 17th Amendment. I hope it whetted your appetite to go and learn more through the essay, How the 16th and 17th Amendment Destroyed the Republic. I hope you'll share it with others, because ultimately this study is about educating ourselves. It's about reading the Constitution. It's about understanding what it actually says and then learning how to apply that in our everyday lives, learning how to hold our elected representatives accountable for what they are doing. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back. I hope to see more downloads, more interest, more traction. I'm trying to get enough interest and enough activity through the combination of the website and the podcast and Patreon to allow me to devote more time to the Constitution study. It's all going to be based on how much traction I get, how much interest I get in what I'm doing. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you'll come back. I hope that you will continue to read and to study the Constitution, and I hope to see you again next time on the Constitution Study. God bless.